ESPN licensed video games and extreme games sound like a perfect matchup. After all, you have the X Games, which are basically a great melding of the two. You have the ESPN branding and broadcast package behind it, and you have extreme games such as snowboarding, skateboarding, extreme sporting events that just were perfect for especially like a late summer afternoon when you're watching the X Games on ESPN, such as me watching Tony Hawk pull off his infamous 900. Those were big memories, and for me, really one of the big pushes toward extreme sports video games in general. Tony Hawk's involvement got me interested in games like Street Skater and, of course, his own titular Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series for the PlayStation and later the PlayStation 2 and beyond. Konami had the ESPN license in the later stages of the PlayStation era and the beginning stages of the PlayStation 2 era. Some of the earlier games involved snowboarding. There was an ESPN X Games snowboarding and in Snowboarding 2000, I believe. There were two titles. But in the summer of 2001, in the late summer of 2001, we got a skateboarding game in specific. And it is called, and I'll put it right here in front of the camera so you can see, ESPN X Games Skateboarding, developed by Konami and released for the PlayStation 2 in August of 2001. And this is the topic of today's Unsealed episode. Now, this game runs like a Tony Hawk game would usually run. You unlock different stages by accomplishing objectives within each stage. Once you pull off enough objectives, you can go on to the next stage. Whether it's something like pulling off a certain combo string, achieving a certain score, or knocking over a certain number of objects, you do all those before the time runs out in the stage and you can move on to the next. But what sets this game apart is there's actually an X Games mode in here where you can play and have the presentation on the television just like they would at the X Games, where you have a vert pipe or a half pipe where you can pull off vert tricks. And then you also have a street course, and you are judged based on the number of tricks you do, making sure that you're not repeating too many, and you're competing against all kinds of pros in this game. Now, obviously, Tony Hawk isn't here, but you have Bob Burnquist makes his appearance here. This is why he doesn't appear in later Tony Hawk games. Rick McCrank is here, Colin McKay, and the list goes on. So here is the back of the game, just so you can kind of take a look. There are some screenshots there. I know that the glare from my laptop is making it tough to see. I got this brand new from eBay not from eBay, from Amazon as part of my birthday this year. So we're going to go ahead and open this up. I do believe that it was resealed, as this doesn't have the security tag on it. But it is still sealed, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to open it up and we're going to check out and see what's inside. So let's go ahead and we'll take that off. You're going to see some of that in these Unsealed episodes, or some of these games that I've gotten, although they're new and quote-unquote factory sealed, the security tag is missing. So I'm guessing that those games might have been returned and repackaged, but we'll find out together whether the games are really new or not. So when we open up the package here, we do have the instruction manual and also the disc. Now, this is a CD-ROM. This isn't a DVD-ROM. This is brand new. It's not been touched. You can kind of tell by looking here. There's no scratches on it. That's what the disc looks like. I believe there's Bob Burnquist there doing his thing. And there is a manual in here. It is a decently sized manual. You can also tell this has been repackaged because I don't believe that these memory card holders were in the early PlayStation 2 packaging. This is still kind of new. But if we take a look inside the manual here, it is a full-color manual, which is kind of nice, but something that wasn't uncommon in the early days. There is information such as how to select your equipment, how to play the game. There's a nice still shot here of someone getting ready to pull off a grind. There's also, as I like to talk about a lot, there's also a warranty card on the back here. Let's see what the warranty card asks. Let's see, who purchased the game? How did you hear about this game? What kind of video games do you like? What are your favorite magazines? I always like to talk about these just to see what the video game magazines were at the time. Next Generation, great magazine. Awesome magazine for older readers. PSM, EGM, another awesome magazine. PS2 Extreme, Game Pro, Michigan Pro. OPM, which is the official PlayStation magazine. We'll be doing an episode on that very soon. Game Informer and Nintendo Power. Do you own any other game systems? So let's see what we got here. We have PC, Mac, Sega Dreamcast, Game Gear, Game Boy, Nintendo 64, Game Boy Color, PlayStation, and PlayStation 2. So we don't have the Xbox and the GameCube yet. Those would come out later in 2001. How many PlayStation 2 computer entertainment system games do you plan to purchase in the next 12 months? 1 to 5, 6 to 8, 9 to 12, 13 to 15, or 16 or more. Now, if you multiply 16 of those times $50, that's a lot of money you'd be spending on PS2 in 1 year. Although now that they're a little bit cheaper to get, I can certainly buy 16 or more in 1 month. Or 1 month, 1 year. Who else in the family plays the game? Brothers, sisters, dad, mom. No grandparents. Shame on you. What are your favorite hobbies? Team sports, skateboarding, movies, arcades, or collecting. Interesting the collecting is here, although I think that the collecting is a little bit different. Game collecting was still something that was fairly new at that point, but baseball card collecting was certainly a thing. Pog collecting, maybe, who knows. So that is what's on the card on the inside. This game tends to fly under the radar some. The play controls take some getting used to. It's certainly different than how Tony Hawk games play. But once you get used to it, it is pretty neat. I do want to see whether the credits are here because there's some interesting musical choices in the game. They are here. They have acts in this game. American Hi-Fi. Crease is here with their cover of Tommy Two Tone's 867-5309. Which is really good. Early Linkin Park is here, A Place for My Head, which is really the first time I had heard Linkin Park and really started to get into them. Newfound Glory is here. RX Bandits are here. Sum 41 with Fat Lip is here. Voodoo Glow Skulls are here as well. So the soundtrack is really good. The graphics are okay. They're not going to blow anyone away, but they're decent. They get the job done. And again, the play controls are a little bit different from the Tony Hawk games and take some getting used to. But if you happen to find this game out in the wild somewhere and you like skateboarding games, I actually would recommend giving this a shot. It's not that expensive. I wound up getting this copy for less than $20, and it was still sealed, although, like I said, I don't think it was brand new. And it's worth a play. The only thing I'll remind you is that if you have PlayStation 2 hardware, because the disc is a blueback disc, which means it's CD-ROM and not DVD-ROM, your system may or may not like that disc. So if your system struggles with CD-based games, you may want to give this another thought. But if your system plays all the games like mine does, at least for now, then I do recommend giving it a shot and taking a look to see what Konami did with the skateboarding game. They did make a pseudo-sequel of sorts called Evolution Skateboarding, which actually features Solid Snake, of all people, on the PlayStation 2. And then the GameCube version doesn't have Snake on it, but it does have some other features that it shares in common, such as battling boss monsters, which, again, you have to play the game to understand. But you can check that out for the PlayStation 2. It's not very expensive. It's called ESPN X Games Skateboarding, and that's been the subject of today's Unsealed episode. We do have more extreme games in the near future, as well as the unsealing of a certain magazine that's been sealed for a long time, and I'm looking forward to opening that. As a matter of fact, it'll be 20 years old come August, so I don't know when I'm going to get that done. Comments are always welcome. Thanks very much for checking out this episode of Unsealed, and we'll do it again soon. Until the next time, everybody.